Welcome back, everybody. I want to let you know that Sodak Pete now has his own YouTube channel called Adventures with Sodak Pete. We started a new channel for Pete so that all of the channel and video descriptions and hashtags could be focused directly on his adventures. And hopefully, our hopes are that more people will find Sodak Pete and enjoy his adventures with us. For the month of July, you'll be able to find all Sodak Pete's new videos and his old ones on Ranching Sodak and on the new channel called Adventures with Sodak Pete. In August, we will start to post all the new videos only on the new channel Adventures with Sodak Pete. So, if you've been watching Sodak Pete on Ranching Sodak, thank you. We love having you watch it. We love the comments. I'm really enjoying writing these stories and creating the images with the help of all the technology that's available today. So, we're excited that you're enjoying these, and we hope that you'll find us and follow us on our new channel called Adventures with Sodak Pete. See you there. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sassy Pants, wife to Matty the rancher, and I'll be your storyteller today. Welcome to Adventures with Sodak Pete. Stories that celebrate the hard work, the big hearts, and the wide open spaces of ranch life. Out here, every day's an adventure, and we hope each and every one of you watching can imagine yourself as little Sodak Pete, learning the ropes, getting your hands a little dirty, and helping out where it counts. So grab your boots, tip your hat, and let's see what today's adventure has in store. Sodak Pete, cutting hay at the ranch. The sun was just peeking over the hills when Matty called to Pete through the screen door, "Pete, time to get the cutter ready." Sodak Pete grabbed his boots and his hat, slid to a stop by the kitchen, and he gave me that big-eyed, ready-to-work grin. I handed him a warm egg and bacon sandwich wrapped in a paper towel. "Eat it on the go, Pete. Today's a big day." He gave me a quick thanks, and he headed out the door with Millie on his heels, boots thudding, dog tail wagging, both of them full of early morning fire. Matty was already out by the cutter, crouched low and checking the belts. Pete skidded to a stop beside him, brushing his crumbs off his shirt. "Want me to hand you tools, Matty?" Pete asked, already reaching for a little grease gun. "You bet," Matty said. "We'll get her all tuned up before the day gets too hot." Together they checked every fitting, every bolt, every moving part. Matty pointed to the blades underneath the header. "We need these sharp so they slice the grass real clean. Dull blades, they'll just mash it down instead of cutting it." Pete nodded real serious. Then he chuckled at Millie, who was sniffing under the hitch. "Hey, Millie, that's not a chew toy." Matty wiped his hands on a rag and he looked out across the pasture. "That field by the creek over there is ready," he said. "Tall, leafy, and just starting to bloom. A nice mix of grass and alfalfa, just right for the cows." Pete stood on his tippy toes to get a better look. "It sure looks thick," he said. Matty nodded and then he scanned the sky. No rain in the forecast, so we've got a dry window to get it cut, cured, and all baled up. Pete looked up too, squinting like he knew how to read the clouds. He didn't. Not really, but it felt good to try. Millie just plopped in the grass, ready for the next adventure. Matty climbed into the cutter and turned the key. The machine rumbled to life. Belts were a-spinning and the blades were a-whirring. Pete climbed up beside him, grinning. He was excited to get started. They rolled into the field and the cutter laid down a smooth, thick swath of green behind the cutter. Grass and alfalfa toppled into tidy rows, like a quilt across the hayfield. "Keep your eyes peeled," Matty said. "You never know what's bedded down out there." Just then, zip! A jackrabbit shot out of the field like it had been launched from a cannon. Pete stood up and he pointed as he followed the rabbit with his eyes. Millie barked and she took off after it, lickety-split. She was loving the chase, with no hope of catching it. Up and down, back and forth, they rolled across the field, cutting clean rows through the mixed hay. The air smelled sweet, like sunshine, alfalfa, and summertime. Pete looked out the window, watching the rows fall behind them like green ribbons. "Smells like supper for the cows," he said with a grin. Then, just ahead, a flicker of movement in the grass. Ooh, Matty slowed down. A baby deer stood up, slow, wobbly-legged, and wide-eyed, then bounded away towards the trees. Pete had been holding his breath. "She's okay," Matty said gently. "Gotta keep our eyes open. She just needed a little time to get out of the way." The cutter started leaving scraggly spots behind. Matty narrowed his eyes and he slowed to a stop. "Something's off," he said, climbing down. "She's not cutting clean." Pete hopped out too and he peeked under the machine. A couple of blades were worn out, all rough and broken up, and Matty shook his head. "I've got some spare blades, but I left the impact wrench back at the shop." Pete's eyes lit up. He grabbed his walkie-talkie and grinned. "Breaker, breaker, this is Hay Cutter Pete. We need the impact wrench and a snack." I answered right back, "On my way, cowboy." I came bumping out to the field in the pickup with a cooler full of sandwiches, a jug of lemonade, and an impact wrench rattling around in the toolbox. Millie was the first to greet me. Her tail was a wagging like she wanted a snack too. Matty grabbed the wrench and he got to work, switching out the blades. Pete handed him parts one by one. He was proud to be part of the fixing crew. When the blades were replaced, we all sat down to eat. The smell of fresh cut hay filled the air. Pete took a big bite of his sandwich and he said, "Nothing better than lunch in the hayfield." By sundown, the field was half cut and looking mighty fine. The rows of mixed hay curved gently with the hills like lines on a well-worn map. Matty shut down the cutter and he stepped out, stretching his back with a quiet smile. Pete hopped down too, boots hitting the ground with a thump. They both stood for a moment, just looking. Millie trotted up, tail wagging and nose twitching. "We'll give it a day or two to dry," Matty said. "Then it'll be ready to bale." Pete nodded. "I'm glad I got to help you cut hay today, Matty." The walkie-talkie crackled as Pete pressed the button. "Breaker, breaker, ranch yard, got a copy?" I answered back, "Copy that, hay crew. Supper's waiting." Days like this remind us how blessed we are. Good land, good people, and the good Lord guiding it all. Thanks for riding along with us today. Sodak Pete and I hope you'll join us on our next adventure.